Greetings, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Metal Command podcast. Tony here with you, and today I am bringing you an interview with myself and guitar player Dean Wells from the band Teramaze. Teramaze is definitely a kick-ass progressive metal band from Australia, and to be honest, folks, the album Her Halo, which is one of their releases, still to me is one of the greatest albums I have ever heard. These guys definitely have it going on musically, and they are really, really talented. Sadly, being from Australia, they aren't as well known here in the States and probably even in Europe as they should be. But they are definitely one of the best bands that I have ever heard. And having Dean on the show to talk about the band and some of their accomplishments and their releases and their albums was definitely a lot of fun. Dean came on my radio show once a few years back. It was great to have him on, and they have a new release called Dalla Volta, which we do talk about. So with that said, here is the interview with myself and Dean Wells of Teramaze. Dean, it's great to have you on. I don't know if you remember this, it was a long time ago, but I actually had you on my show once
Yeah,
before.
I do remember.
Yeah,
I think it might have been like Anadonia or Esoteric or something.
Esoteric, yes, because I just remember the last three songs on the album had some of the craziest guitar work I think I've ever heard. So
That's probably Esoteric.
it was Esoteric, yes, because I still remember the Marty Friedman comment when he wanted to say you needed to get crazier, and I wanted to be like, well, I don't think you listened to the end of that album. So yeah, but anyhow, it's great to have you on, man. You know, I really liked the band for quite some time, and definitely digging the new album. And let's talk about the upcoming album you have coming out, because I definitely am really liking it quite a bit now that I've been able to listen to it for the last week.
So we're talking about Dalla Volta.
Dalla Volta, correct? That one.
We released so much music, it gets confusing.
Yeah.
But well, it was something that I suppose I never thought I'd really sort of do something like this, where it's a bit of like, there's some new songs, you know, there's some reworked songs, and there's some demos and covers and stuff. So we didn't really know what to do with a bit of this music, because it felt like it wasn't we're still working on other music as well, so it didn't feel like it was part of what we were doing. So it was sort of like, let's stop and have a bit of fun and do something a bit different, really more for the fans of the band who actually know us, you know what I mean? So redoing Shadows from Tears to Dust, which was like our second album years ago, you know what I mean? So it was like that was a lot of fun, because we brought back our original drummer from back then, Tony, and had a bit of fun doing that, and redid the couple of ballads with the piano player from Her Halo. So that's why it was called Dalla Volta, I suppose, because it supposedly means from the vault, but I've been told it depends on the translation. But that's what it meant for us. It was like songs from the vault, and they're not B-sides. It's like there's some new songs on there, and I don't know if it was what you really call it. It's like, it's not a retrospective. It's just a sort of almost like a stop in the road a bit, and go, well, let's reflect back a bit, and then let's do some new songs, and put this sort of collection, I suppose, from like the archive of. That's kind of how we see it together, for fans to hear things that they probably wouldn't hear, like the demos from Are We Soldiers with Nathan's original vocals on it. You know what I mean? Because Nathan's back. We're kind of like, it could be kind of cool to release those on something, so people can sort of hear where the songs originated from. So
sure.
Yeah, it was a bit of a, I don't know, it was a bit of fun. I suppose not having, just doing a full length album with all new songs it's a different. It was a sort of different mind frame. You know, maybe it's like, what else can we add to this that's going to make it really cool? Something really cool for the fans.
Sure.
So that's what we come up with.
Now, you have written a lot of music, obviously. And, you know, when the whole pandemic thing started, like a lot of things, I lost touch with what the band was doing. And then come last year, all of a sudden I find out you guys have written a lot of stuff. Because, you know, I mean, it's because I Are We Soldiers, obviously, that was the last record, honestly, that I had heard.
Right.
So from what I understand, you have some stuff after that. And for myself and for myself and other people that may not know about that, maybe discuss what you have actually what you've actually released since then.
All right. So Are We Soldiers was the last album we did on the label that we're on, Mascot Label Group, which we had Halo, and great label. That was 2019 it come out, I think. Yeah. So I had a lot of music that I was working on then, and I wasn't sure when the label would do another album, because I had another band with the label, Mashiach, and I was doing album. I was doing that album as well. So it was like a lot of music for me just to be doing on one label. So Teramaze was like, well, what are we going to do with all this music? And then basically the pandemic started, and I just went, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. I'm just sticking to what I do, and it's write music and produce music, and the world can go crazy. And it was more. So we released an album called I Wonder, which was the first album that I've sung as like the only singer on it. Which was a lot of that album it's a fairly like emotional album. It actually come from meeting someone who lived through some of the most horrific stuff you've ever heard probably the most horrific stuff I've ever heard in my life, and had this person in my house and for a couple of weeks, and it affected me so much that all that music for I Wonder come out, which is why I needed to sing it. So that album, and that album actually has been probably one of the most popular ones we've done since Her Halo. So it's probably a little bit lighter, maybe, but it's actually one of my favorite albums. So then there was I Wonder, and then the pandemic sort of kept going. So we did. I had partly written the next part to Her Halo, which was Sorella Minore, which is a 25-minute song, nearly 26 minutes. So we put that on a sort of, it's an album. It's shorter, but it's still an album. And got Nathan back, got a girl called Jennifer Borg, who sings in a band called Divine Ascension. And Silvio, singer from Vanishing Point. So I had 4 singers sing on that song. It was just something different for me to keep my mind occupied. You know what I mean? Like, we were locked in our houses and shit. It was crazy. It was nuts. Yeah. It was, it was just insane. And other than me going on a rampage, I thought, I'm not going to let this, get to me, or just ruin what I've been trying to build. So I just kept working on music because I'm in the studio. Like, I live in, I've got a small studio here. So we did Sorella Minore, and that did really well right in the middle of chaos, I suppose. Then we had a lot more music written because couldn't do anything else, man. Literally couldn't do anything else. I'd go for a walk for an hour a day, and they'd let us out of our jail cell in Melbourne. Like, I'm right in the middle of Melbourne. It was the worst place in the world for the control freaks. Yeah. So it was a really interesting time mentally for me, because I just, I've always sung music about, the control and anti-government shit. And so it's like, here we are. There's something's not right with this whole thing. What do I do with this? And so I just kept writing more music because that's what I love to do. And I thought it's a positive thing. You know what I mean? That's where, and the beauty they perceive comes from that album. So we actually released 3 albums in 12 months, which I look back now and I think, I don't even know how I did that. I was like, it was crazy, but I suppose we didn't stop. We didn't really even see each other. You know what I mean? It was like we all just recorded our own parts and, I did most of it here. Then last year, we brought out Flight of the Wounded, which is more kind of a bit of everything, but not so. The album wasn't really so much written in this lockdown sort of vibe. So that's got a different. It's got a little bit more of a. You probably say more of a positive sort of.
Mm-hmm.
Not really. We use the word positive, but I don't know. There's something a little bit more uplifting about Flight of the Wounded, where the other ones are a little bit more somber and maybe a bit darker. You know what I mean? So yeah, there's been 4 albums since Are We Soldiers and now Dalla Volta, and we're not slowing down either.
Right. Well, now I need to find out where I can get these 4 albums, because I'll be honest with you, I'm dying to hear them now.
Probably Bandcamp's the best. I mean, depends if you just want digital or you actually want CDs. That was one thing through the pandemic that was really eye-opening for us, because we come off a fairly decent, pretty big label for us. Like, I wasn't really seeing how far the band reached, you know what I mean? Like, and who was listening and who bought CDs and who bought vinyl. I knew a little bit, but not. It's when you're doing it yourself, you literally see every CD. You see every dollar, you see every CD.
Yeah.
But when on a label, it gets a little bit blurry, especially when I was doing all the work for 2 bands, and I was just like, yeah, okay, just keep going.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that kind of blew us away as a band was how many people wanted CDs.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. Like, we couldn't, it was just us 4, and it still is. I've got a few distribution deals now, but it was just us 4, and the mailing, the postage and that was crazy here. They put everything up $25 to send one CD. I'm like, you crooks! Like, the rich got richer and everyone else just whatever. You know what I mean? So it was
right.
It was really a crazy time, but I'm sort of glad that we just went, we're just going to keep writing music and releasing it, because no one else is doing anything. And one of our albums, and the beauty they perceive, that was right in the middle. That here for metal and rock was number 1. Was number 1 in Switzerland. And we're like, is this because no one else is releasing music? Because it was kind of.
Was this in 2020?
Or
21?
Where are we?
I know, 2020. It was 2023.
21, man.
Okay.
I'd have to double check, but I think, that and that was actually really surprising. Just, I suppose, because not many people were releasing albums. Everyone just stopped and just like, I'm scared of this cold thing. You know what I mean? It's like, what are you doing? Like, I don't know. It was really weird, but we just sort of stuck to our guns and just kept going, which now has, and there was no plan of just releasing, 3 or 4 albums. It was just, let's just keep going. And now looking back, I'm like, it was one of the best things we could have done.
Sure.
Because it's grown the fan base, but like the fans now seem a big part of what we do, where it used to be, it felt a bit separate. Like, it didn't know who was listening to the band, and you know what I mean? Like, so a lot of good things actually come for us anyway, come out of sticking to our,
right.
guns and just keep recording other than letting it run us over. And, so that's kind of how we end up with so much music. And Dalla Volta's sort of like come out of all that. It's like, well, we've got this other stuff here, there's new songs, and let's sort of compile it into something that's really cool that you wouldn't normally get, especially having the demos with Nathan singing on it, which the demos actually sound pretty good. Like they're not, it doesn't sound like you've recorded them on a cassette tape or something, you know what I mean?
No, not at all.
And I didn't touch them. He had them still, and I literally just put them on the album as they were. I didn't try to fix them or anything. I'm like, that's how the demos were when the songs were written, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's kind of cool. I just sort of like, I suppose, trying to do something a bit different each time now, trying to look at new things. If we're not playing live, then releasing music and videos or whatever seems to be the closest thing, you know what I mean, to connecting with people, I suppose.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. The band has always, to me, had a pretty unique sound. Like I can go and think to myself, when I hear you guys, I know it's you, right? And
yeah, cool.
I'll be honest with you. Like I was listening to this release that just came out, and then when I read the press release that you had all these other records out, I'm like, how the hell did I miss this? And for me, I think part of it too was because when I first started this show 25 years ago, I wasn't getting. I mean, you didn't have a ton of stuff coming at you. Now it's easy to miss things because there's so. I mean, I open my email box and I probably get. Last year, I received 47,000 emails from publicists.
Yeah.
So it becomes hard. And then I don't know. I saw Teramaze came up, and I saw the album, and I didn't even listen to it at the time when I saw the promo. I just emailed your publicist that said, I need to get this guy back on the show because I love the band. And then I listened to the album afterwards. But I know, like, I considered Her Halo probably one of the best records I've ever heard. Right. So, and Are We Soldiers, definitely a great follow up to that. So I knew I loved the band, and I was just like, man, I need to get this guy on again. because of the fact that I have liked your stuff for quite a long time, and I'll be honest with you. Now I'm intrigued to go check these other albums out. You have a Bandcamp site, right? Is that where you typically?
Yeah, well, that was another thing. Look, I didn't even know what Bandcamp was 2 years ago. Well, nearly 3 now.
Okay.
I heard about it, but I suppose being with Mascot, they sort of dealt with all the releasing of the music, you know what I mean, like Spotify's and CDs and vinyl, and had Warner Music distribution. So it was sort of like, oh, okay, I don't have to worry about any of this, and it was really nice to have that. But at the same time, you kind of miss a little bit of who's doing what, and you know what I mean, like things like Bandcamp popped up when we were about to release I Wonder, and then someone, I think it might have just been someone online, just goes, oh, why don't you have a Bandcamp? I'm like, yeah, I don't know. So I went and made one, and literally over the last 2 years, we actually made more money from that than anything else.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's like, not that I do this completely for money, but it was interesting seeing it happen. You know what I mean? It's like all these people buying all our CDs, and we literally couldn't keep up. So that was a real eye-opener. I was like, okay, there's this whole other platform that I sort of just missed, because I'm like, I write the music and I also do all the production and I do all the art stuff, and I'm always like focused on the band stuff, but then there's a sort of more of a business side to it, which we've usually had labels. So I just almost go, I don't have to think about that. But now we know exactly what's going on with everything, like, which I think is really needed, I suppose, for us to sort of move forward. And it's been hard. Like the thing that's missed was probably putting albums in shops, but I don't know, like over here, man, there's barely any shops that would even have CDs in them. Yeah. You know what I mean? So but that seems to have, that's what I've heard in America at the moment. It's slowly shifting back because of vinyl.
Correct. Yeah.
So they want the CDs with the vinyl, but everyone's just buying the CDs through Bandcamp and our web pages. And because I don't even buy CDs. Like, I haven't for ages. So I'm sort of like, oh well, I don't know who wants these. And we're ordering like hundreds of CDs, man. It's like, so
I got a bunch of them here. Right here. So yeah, that in the States, it's interesting because, at first I thought it was weird, when people were doing that. Like, there's certain bands I'll sort of collect that kind of stuff from, but then I have a 16-year-old son, and he's like obsessed with vinyl. I don't know why, and that's what he wants, and he is, obsessed with it. So, and he actually listens to it, and sometimes I do, but that the whole tangible music thing has caught on big time with a lot of younger people. It's really the generation now are the ones that are really into that as much.
Yeah, I get it, because I think a big part of it is simple, that when you're buying music for a long time now, I suppose with the digital world, it's like you're not really buying anything. You're not you haven't got anything of that band. It's just like, I listen to music, and like, I listen to Spotify and whatever, but having, I think, something in their hands seems to be like, well, I'm a part of this. This is, it's like, it's like having an Anthrax hat. It's like you're part of it's a thing. It's something that I don't know. That's what I think anyway. That seems to be, that's what's taken off. And I suppose with releasing so many of our albums, we were trying to think of other things that fans would want. Like picture cards and the 25-minute song we put in like a DVD case with a little book and stuff. It's like, it kind of opened our minds up creatively with how to sell music. Not just a basic CD. There's all these other things like badges and, T-shirt designs. And so that stuff's been really cool, I suppose, sort of all of us 4 or 5 of us now, just being hands-on with that, like every day. There's always something new to figure out, like, well, and because people want to own stuff, I think, which is kind of cool for us, because it makes it just a little bit more interesting what we can give out, what we can create, or what we can, but yeah, that's been cool. The vinyl is actually expensive to make.
Oh yeah, it's very big time. Yeah.
That's been the hardest thing for us. It's like not so much just the cost of the vinyl; it's the cost of the postage. Makes a vinyl, for like a Teramaze vinyl, to buy from us here. If you're in America, it's going to cost, I don't know. I think it's like more than $25 to send. So it ends up a ridiculous price. And we're like, this is insane. Like, so trying to find ways to do vinyl where it benefits everyone, the band and fans, where they're not spending $70 or $80 on a vinyl. It's something, I don't know. I don't even really know how much vinyl is at the moment, but I know it's expensive to make. So yeah, it's been.
Well, I'm looking at your Bandcamp. I was just looking at your Bandcamp site, and I'm like, dude, I got some catching up to do. And I'm actually looking forward to that because, I drive a lot for work. So, obviously, I need some music. So definitely I'm looking forward. This is going to be actually kind of fun because, maybe tonight or tomorrow I'll be going shopping on that site and checking out some of the stuff that you've put out that I've missed. There's quite a bit actually. But I'm looking forward to that. Definitely. Yeah. It's interesting with the vinyl thing because part of it, what's driven up the cost. I did a whole show on on the reason why that has happened, why it's become more expensive. I remember getting a copy of, Power Slave by Iron Maiden for like, it used to be like $17, $16 here, right?
Yeah.
Which I think in Australian money is around $25, right?
That's about right. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is that now if you go on to try to find that copy of that album, it's like $40, 40 US dollars basically. So it's gone up over double what it used to be. And what's happened is the demand for that has skyrocketed to the point where these factories get maxed out, and they're actually almost, they're not taking any business from people. And then some of these bigger pop artists are ordering like 1 million copies, right, of a vinyl record, and in that million copies there's like 7 different colors, kind of like how the comic book industry has variants. They're doing stuff like that to sell it, and it's selling. And I think, and that is why it's become so much more expensive now.
Yeah, and then if you're going to get it from like Australia, then you got to put the postage on the end of it. Yeah. It's just, that's why I'm saying. That's why, like, we have fans and that always like, "Oh, what are you going to do with vinyl?" I've been offered a few deals over the last couple of years to do vinyl, but literally, we would just end up paying so people can have them. We'd literally make zero from it.
Yeah,
because of the cost. And I'm like, I'm not really overly that great of a businessman, but I kind of thought that's kind of stupid. You know what I mean? It's like,
right.
Just so, I want people to be able to have them, but I want to be able to do it so we can constantly do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, get a bit of money back so we can pay for more and get more done, or get more of the albums done, because we have so much music. And we're definitely not slowing down. So it's something that I think maybe work out with some distribution. We got a little deal in Germany. We've got a few deals in America at the moment that we've still sort of got control of our music, which is what we wanted to sort of try to keep as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially more so because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Because leaving the label at that time, I thought, well, they're not going to release music for probably 2 or 3 years. And in those 2 and 3 years, we did 4 albums. So that was, it may not have had major distribution like the other ones did, but the band still grew and we got to do what we love to do. You know what I mean? So it was worth us going independent.
Yeah.
And we've learned so much about just how things are changing all the time. And I kind of find that interesting as well. I mean, like what's new, and, have to get like a TikTok and all those sort of things, because it's all about promoting the music. You know what I mean? It's like our number one priority is that we can release the best music that we can possibly do. But then there's this whole other, how do we promote this? How do people get to hear it? How do we make this all work? And that's become actually fun. It's actually, because I just used to kind of leave that all up to labels, which sounds like I'm spoiled, but you know what I mean? It's like, it's been actually really cool learning, I don't know, even algorithms and Facebook. You can spend money on Facebook and then no one sees your post, and then you ask a question and you get like 200 comments. It's just all this stuff's kind of like interesting to me that, just basically it's all about how do you get people to hear your music, really, because that's what every band wants. There's someone to listen to their stuff. If they don't like it, that's cool. But if they love it, then it's like, cool, there's some sort of connection then. But yeah, so
do you have a lot of people that from the US over here that check you guys out, that know of you guys?
We sell the most in America, and
really,
and we have the most listeners on Spotify in America. It's about the same as Europe, but because they put all the American listeners under one thing, but where in Europe they'd be like, Germany, Belgium, Switzerland, but they sort of seem to all add up to about the same as America. Yeah. Yep.
That's cool, man. Because he goes more progressive music like this usually isn't as popular, with the metal scene. Most of the guys are seeing the thrash bands and things like that. But for a band from Australia, it's always more, for a band from where you're at, it's always more difficult to kind of get your name out here because of how big this country is. I mean, hell, even a lot of these power metal bands from Europe, I mean, they can go play in front of 50,000 people in Europe and then come over here and play in front of like 500. It's just it's a weird market when it comes to this kind of music. But I think that's cool, man. I have to say, I am looking forward to checking out a lot of these other records. And my next question is, you've written a lot of stuff. Do you have anything in the tank that you're working on now for another actual record?
Yeah, we've been working on, the next full length album on and off for a while, but I'm right in the middle of it now. So we are working on something which is pretty, if you're a big fan of the sort of more halo-y sort of style, this is, I can't say too much, but this is possibly one of the most full-on albums we've ever done.
That's
where it's
cool.
Just it's loaded with everything. So yeah, we're right in the middle of that now. I'm not quite sure when that's going to be finished, but the thing is, I suppose people know that follow the band that we're always working on music, but this is we're right in the middle of something that's pretty special, to be honest. It's coming up probably better than I thought from the start. So I'm pretty stoked about what's coming next. And we work pretty fast, so who knows when that's going to be done.
Well, hey, Dean, I'm looking forward to it. In all seriousness, I've definitely enjoyed what you've done so far. And what I think is cool too on this Bandcamp, those first couple records, I believe, look like they're available at least digitally. The ones, because I've never heard them, and I know those were out of print for quite a long time, obviously. But you pretty much have everything up there, which I think is is cool.
Everything digital. We try to stock most of the CDs. The thing with the early Teramaze, from Anadonia on, I would say, is this band is sort of whatever you call it, reformation, reignition. And the first two albums were like the difference in between, I suppose, well, I was a kid when we did them, basically, and then I stopped and went and learned how to be a producer and learned pop music and learned how to sing and write, and then come back and restarted Teramaze. Basically kept the name. I wanted to do more metal, obviously, but I always felt like there was a pretty big disconnection because it was like 8 or 9 years or more.
Yeah.
Well, since Anadonia, there was like 10 years or something. So I kept the name because, I just went, well, why not? But I never really brought those two albums with me. Didn't you know what I mean? Like even mentally, I was like, oh, whatever. I don't know if people care about them, I suppose, because we sort of, from Anadonia onwards, it was just like, well, this is the band now. This is the new Teramaze. We weren't going all that whole time, because people look back, you go, oh, you've been together for all this time. But we weren't. You go 2012 was Anadonia. This band right now that's functioning, that's the band that it is from there. But before that, it was like we really didn't know what we were doing because, we started off as teenagers, I suppose, just writing metal, got a little bit better. And then I kind of got bored with metal and went and did pop music. So, you still there?
Oh, I'm here. Yeah.
Yeah. No one really ever explains that on any sort of sites or whatever that I've seen, just little Wikipedias or whatever. I'm like, whatever. But I'm like, that's why it's like, yeah, I'd say I always take it from about Anadonia onwards. If you want to go back, bring those albums are cool and all, but it's such a different, well, for me anyway, musically, I think I was a lot more accomplished from Anadonia onwards, which is why I didn't like looking back a bit, but I realised that there were some good songs on those albums, which is why we redid The Shadows. I thought that was a cool song. And we just basically surprisingly just released the lyric video for it, because I just sometimes like just dropping things on the fans because we've got control of this, you know what I mean? So it's like, let's just sort of sometimes drop music because who cares? You know what I mean? Like, keep things interesting. I don't like doing the same thing over and over, I suppose. But people love the new Shadows with Nathan singing. Even relearning how to play it. Not that it was difficult, but I'm like, I don't even play like this anymore. Like, I just don't write like that anymore. It was strange. It was really nice to sort of jam, and then jamming it with my old drummer was really strange because the last time we jammed, we were like almost just kids, you know. It was like strange, really weird. So that's the whole thing with Dalla Volta. It's like it's got a bit of history in it, and then it's got like the newer sound where we're going from here, I suppose. Which is
speaking of pop music, you did a Phil Collins cover on it, which I thought was really pretty cool, actually.
That was a bit of fun when with Nathan. I thought we really just like working with each other, and let's just do something that's got two singers and something that's a cool song, but let's have a bit of fun with it. And that's what happened. We did that little film clip. I don't know if you saw the film clip.
I did.
Yeah, we're just being idiots.
Well, I have to ask you this. So I remember back when, you won that Marty Friedman contest thing. And, I thought one of the coolest compliments, because Marty's a phenomenal player, that he said, and it always stuck in my head, that he said that you were everything that anybody would want in a good guitar player, at the end of, when he talked about it. And, when you heard that and you actually, were able to, you won that contest, but you heard him give you that kind of compliment. What was that like for you? Because I consider him a pretty legendary dude, as far as
he's my favorite guitarist of all time.
Yeah. Okay.
Him and say John Petrucci, but Friedman was really my first. When I heard Rust in Peace, I was like, that's, if I can play guitar, that's how I want to sound. Like, more so the leads than the actual music. And so it was funny with that contest because I'm not that kind of guitarist that would go and do instrumentals and contests and like look how fast I can play. I just sort of learned how to play lead to complement songs. And so it was actually a fan band that goes, hey, Marty's doing a competition, you should go in it. And I'm like, and I kind of just went, all right. And I didn't really hear that album of his, and I got the little snippet and I played over it and filmed it, and I thought, oh, that's kind of what he would play. So that's how I approached it. It was kind of weird. I kind of just went, well, I'm not going to spend heaps of time on it. I just want to sort of jam over it, throw something together and kind of go, oh, that sounds cool. And then I loaded it up and I forgot about it completely. I was like, well, okay, whatever. Because I was just thinking there's no way I'm going to win. Not even 1%. I just thought I'll do it because it was a little bit of a challenge and I kind of like the challenge. And Marty's my favorite guitarist. But I approached the solo because I never heard the original. I never heard what he played over it. Yeah. So I just went, well, I'm going to sort of play what I think he would play. It sounds strange, but that's kind of how I looked at it. And then I put it up, and then I think someone wrote to me, left a message on my Facebook. There's like, you might want to check that Marty video thing. And I'm like, watching it, And I'm like, okay. So the guy who comes second, I've been chatting to him, I think, for years. I can't remember his name, Lee. And then he's like, oh, the winner's Dean Wells. And I literally, man, I thought it was a dream.
Yeah.
I was actually laughing because I'm like, this is not real. So it was bizarre hearing him say my name more so than the guitar playing. Because I like, not long before that, I did an album with Jeff Waters, who was like one of my idols.
Yeah, yeah.
Which was, mind blowing for me. And then Marty, and then not long after that, we were signed by the same guy that signed Dream Theater and all this sort of stuff. So there's so many little things happened, more so for the band, that had to do with like my idols. So a lot of those things were sort of a bit surreal, dude. Like I was just like, I didn't even know what to say when I won. I'm like, oh, okay. So
yeah,
I don't know what that means, but bizarre, really bizarre. I still every now and again sort of, my other guitarist is a huge Marty Friedman fan. And the only time I bring it up is to tease him. It's the only time I really bring it up. But like, oh,
yeah.
Hey, so it's kind of become like a funny thing because I just didn't expect to win.
Yeah.
That, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's still in my head, but it's like, yeah, that was kind of crazy. Because it just felt like it wasn't even real. Bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And look, I've met a lot of those people now. I've met a lot of my idols and stuff, and they're just people. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Most of them have been great people. Like everyone from Slayer to Dream Theater to, oh man, I was working on writing songs with Russell from Symphony X, like just all these different things. Like, so yeah, I'm pretty grateful for a lot of the little things that happen along the way while you're just focused on, writing music. It's really,
yeah.
It's not about.
I like at the end of the video too, Marty was like trying to like give constructive criticism, but it really wasn't criticism. He's kind of like, and then he's like, well, you know what? You're just everything people want to hear in a guitar player. You know what I'm saying? And it was cool because he's like, it was professional. I really liked, he just complimented you. And I remember seeing that video because I didn't even know you entered a contest. Right. And this video pops up and I'm listening to it. And then I went and saw the video, what you played on that album. And I've actually heard the album. So I thought it was, when I heard your solo on it, I thought it was pretty, I was like comparing that a little bit. And it was a really cool thing for you, man. And, it really spoke volumes for a guy like that who probably heard tons of submissions to pick you out of all those people. That was like probably one of the coolest. I was happy for you, man. When I saw that, I was like, man, that is cool.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was, but it still is kind of weird, man. But it's because I suppose I come from such a small town on the furthest away that you can possibly imagine. I live down almost near the bottom of Australia, and I'm like a little town, just learning guitar. And I taught myself, and I liked Marty Friedman, and I learned a lot of the Megadeth stuff when I was like 16.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden he's like calling my name out on a thing, and I'm like, to most people it's like, yeah, whatever, but to me it was like, what the hell is happening? Like, that guy's he's it for me. You know what I mean? It's like, so it was pretty bizarre, which is why it's like, I kind of laugh about it because it was like, yeah, just one of those things that was kind of weird, but really, really nice too. You know what I mean? It was, it didn't give me an ego or anything. It just kind of, I just went, oh, okay. I think I'm on track.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? As a more musician, because I don't really see myself as this sort of solo guitarist because I spend most of my time writing music. Solo is just a thing, not on the side, but it's just a part of, it's a part of it. So, yeah, there's been a few of those little things that I kind of scratch myself, and I'm like, this is pretty cool. And I suppose it's just, I don't know. There's no tricks to this. I think you just stay focused on what you love. You know what I mean? And sometimes along the way, but just persistence, cool things like that happen that just give you that little bit more of like, all right, you know, sometimes when it gets really tough, just keep going a bit more, because sometimes, well, most of the time through that struggle, you know, you end up going through another point. I think something, you know, like a record deal, or you meet, you know, famous guitarist or whatever, something just gives you that extra spark to want to keep doing it. Because being a musician, I think, in this world is kind of a little bit crazy anyway.
Yeah.
Especially original music. Like you have to be a little bit nutty to keep doing it, you know what I mean? Like, but I love it. So it's like, those things definitely stick out as like, it gives you that little bit more confidence, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like, you know, somebody who doesn't know you, listen to your song, listen to what you wrote, actually, listen to the solo, and he doesn't know you. He has no bias towards you. When you usually you know you're on the right track for something. When people you don't know, especially accomplished people, are giving you a compliment, and I think that, and I think that spoke volumes about you as a player. And I think that, you know, when you not only get the confidence boost a little bit, but you at least know you're on the right track and you're on the path to really where you want to be at some point. And I think that's really what he did for you. At least, you know, it's kind of like me with photography. You know, I have people that I don't know that love what I'm doing, and that kind of means like, okay, I'm really on the right track of doing what I'm doing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I totally understood what he was saying, and I agree with him, because I remember when I heard Esoteric Symbolism, and the first time I heard that record, I was literally blown away by it. And that's really, you know, because I had Anhedonia, which I did like, but I think when Esoteric Symbolism came out, that was the album that really made me a fan of the band. That's really that's the album that really had me dialed in and really digging you guys a lot.
Yeah, Esoteric was a huge album to do, actually. It's actually a long album anyway, but it was like, Anhedonia was me coming out of doing sort of pop rock and writing metal riffs and not knowing what to do with them. I'm like, and that was my producer at the time, because he was the one that said, you should do a Teramaze album. And I literally had put it aside, dude. I was just like, when he said it to me, it sparked something in me. I'm like, oh, because I suppose when I was writing for TV and songs submitted for like Australian Idol and things like that, a lot of that is basically you're a silent writer. Yeah. So, and sometimes they wouldn't even like you singing on the songs, even if you wrote them, because they don't want it to. It was really weird. It's like they don't want you to sound too good, because you're going to submit it to someone who wants to sing it and hear themselves over it. And it's a weird world, man. It's like, you think, I just got to get good at singing, I got to get good at songwriting, I got to get good at the list, and then you get told, like, hone it back, bring it back a little bit, because you're submitting songs to pop artists that have got massive egos and don't want to feel like the nobody dude who's writing a song can sing better than them.
Yeah, yeah.
Things like that were really strange for me, because I just thought I'll just try to get good at all this stuff, because I love that for no other reason. But then when he said, like, do Teramaze, I realized I could put everything into that and no one could tell me what to do.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So I was like, I can play guitar, I can do this and that, whatever I want to do, I suppose. It was just, an open sort of, and then Anhedonia was all the riffs that I was writing, but then Esoteric was more like, okay, I'm doing this now.
Yeah.
How can I take it to the next level? I want to get a little bit more progressive, but I want to just get a little bit more, I don't know, just push myself more, I suppose, and the guys in the band at the time. So that's more the difference, was just seeing how far I could push after Anadonia, and then that happened. But yeah, so but that's always stayed. Sometimes I've gone more technical. Sometimes I've brought it right back to writing 3-chord songs. And as you'll hear on things like I Wonder, there's some proggy stuff, but then there's some really basic songs, because that's hard to do too. Like, people think writing technical is sort of hard, but writing a simple song with great melodies is just as hard, man. It's a different challenge, you know what I mean? Because you think, oh, it's got 3 chords. Anyone can play that,
sure.
But not anyone can write these songs. That's why I've got respect for pop music. That it doesn't matter who wrote it, if the melodies are just great. You know, I don't care if it's a Miley Cyrus song or whatever, Katy Perry. I'm like, whoever wrote that song has spent years honing their craft. So I've got respect for all types of songwriters.
Yeah,
you know, and I like to not have any sort of boundaries on myself of what I can and can't do. Sure. So in Teramaze now, it seems to be we kind of do whatever we want style wise, because it all seems to sound like Teramaze if it's 25 minutes or 3 minutes, which I love. You know, I just love that freedom. I suppose it's why you become an artist is to just express yourself. You know what I mean? I've done the whole thrash thing and all that sort of stuff too, and I love thrash music, but I don't like the limitations of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I gotcha. Well, hey, you know what? I'm going to wrap this up a little bit here. And again, I'll tell you what, it's great to have you on the show. Obviously, whenever you have another record coming out, I'm definitely totally 100% down with you coming on the show and talking about it. And any last words to the fans, people that check out the band? You know, I'll put the Bandcamp link in the show notes too as well. But any last words for anybody that's going to be checking this out?
Yeah, well, I mean, if no one's heard much of our stuff since, you know, Always Soldiers and Her Halo, there's 4 new albums since then. So maybe go and check out Bandcamp, Teramaze Bandcamp, or just through our web pages. And also our music looks like it'll be distributed back into America shops and that pretty soon too. So cool. That's been something we've been working on. So yeah, pretty stoked. But thanks for having me, man.
All right. Yeah. And again, it was absolutely a blast to have you on.
Thanks, man.